Hi guys, it's Joanne here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to cut this stylish blouse you're seeing here with a snatch waistline. So if you're interested in something like this, kindly stick around, watch this video to the end. Please don't forget to like, share and subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so. So without further ado, let's get right into the tutorial. To begin, I'm going to be making use of this pattern paper. Please note that this pattern paper is on fold, so I'm drafting the front pattern first. The first line I have here is the shoulder line, the bust line, the under bust line, the waistline, and of course the blouse lines. The blouse line I'm using for this tutorial is 24 inches. I'm going to label each of those lines here for clarification. So this is the shoulder line, the bust line. This is the under bust line, the waistline. I have the blouse length, which happens to be the last part of this pattern paper. So next thing I'm going to do would be to take the chest line. I'm going to come here on the shoulder line, and I'm going to be coming down by the chest line measurement. So to get your chest line measurement, you're going to divide your bust by 6 plus 1.5 inches. That would be your chest line. So I'm going to rule this line across, and I'm going to also go ahead to label this line I just drew here. Okay, so I'm going to label this as the chest line. Next thing I'm going to do now would be to come to this shoulder line and take the shoulder measurement divided by 2. So whatever I had there, I imputed that measurement on this start point line, also known as the shoulder line. So after taking that measurement there, I'm going to come to the chest line, and I'm going to also do the same thing I did on the shoulder line. So next thing I'm going to come here on this point I marked earlier to come down by 1 inch. That will be for the shoulder slope. Then same back on this line here, I am going to also mark the shoulder width, which is the neck width, which is 3 inches. I'm going to now take my straight rule to connect the shoulder slope like so. After doing this, I'm going to connect this point here to meet to the chest line point I marked earlier. So having done this, I'm going to go ahead now to divide this measurement, this straight line you're seeing here. I'm going to divide it by 2, and I'm going to make a point here. I'm going to also come in here by 1/2 of an inch from that point I marked, and I'm going to also take the bust measurement on the chest line. So mark your bust, divide your bust by 4. Whatever you have, you're going to be imputing that on this chest line. Okay, impute the measurement on the chest line. So after doing this, I'm going to go ahead now to take my cuff rule and connect these 3 points to form the new armhole. Once I was through with that, I'm going to come back here to the shoulder line to determine the neck width, the actual neck width. So from this center line here, I am going to be marking 4.5 inches. That will be for the new neck width. Then afterwards, I'm going to come down here for the neck depth. Placing my tape on this shoulder line here, I'm going to be imputing 4.5 inches. After that, I'm going to use this cuff rule to create my deep round neck. The next thing I'm going to be doing now, after creating this round neck like this, I'm going to be imputing the dart. So coming to the bust line, I'm going to divide the nipple to nipple measurement. That is the distance from one bust to the other. I'm going to divide that measurement by 2, and I'm going to be imputing 1/2 of that measurement. So I did that on the bust line, the waistline, the under bust line, and the blouse length. After taking this measurement, the next thing I'm going to do now would be to come here to the chest line, go up from this chest line here, I'm going to go up by 3 inches. Then after that, I just made a point there. I'm going to take my straight rule and connect that point to the bust line. Okay, so where I have this that line here, I am going to be making a mark to meet to that part here on the bust line. I hope you understand what I'm doing here. So now I'm going to be taking in the dart, coming over to the waistline. I'm going to impute on this side here, I'm going to be imputing 1.5 inches. Okay, that will be for the dart intake of this blouse. So I'm going to do the same thing on the under busts, and on the center here I'm going to be coming in by 0.75. I'll repeat the same thing on the waistline on the center part. Then whatever I marked here, I'm going to be doing the same thing on this blouse length. I'm going to now take my straight rule and connect each of those points I marked here on the under bust, waistline and the blouse length. Then I'll do the same thing for this side here. So I've taken in a dart on the under bust. From here, I'm going to take a cuff row now to connect this into this line, okay? Into this dart line here. I'm going to be making a cuff around here, ensuring I don't curve exactly to where the bust line is. So I'm going to do the same thing here on the under bust. So now the next thing I'm going to do would be to come to this armhole line. I am going to be coming down from this point here by 1 inch. I'm going to now take my straight rule and I'm taking my straight rule now to connect this line here back into this other line here, going towards the bust line. Now I'm going to come back here. As you can see, there's a sharp point around this bust line. I'm going to be using this cuff here to blend this bust area, okay? So notice that whatever sharp point you have around your bust area, you should also blend like this. So I'm going ahead now to connect this back into the armhole line, as you can see me do here. So having done this, I've taken in the dart on the armhole, and on the center here I am going to be blending as well. So I'm going to blend the center area in order not to have a sharp point around the bust area, okay? Now the next thing I'm going to do would be to come back to this armhole here, and I'm going to be extending the armhole measurement, okay? I'm going to be extending the armhole where I came down by 1 inch. I'm going to be adding up to that intake I took around the armhole. All right, so I had to erase this parts in order not to have too many lines. I didn't want to confuse you guys, so you know the actual lines I'm working with. So as you can see, this is looking all neat and clean. So next thing I'm going to do would be to come back here to this armhole here. I am going to be extending this measurement here by 1 inch. Remember the dart intake I took around the armhole line. So I'm going to replace this by 1 inch, which I just did. I'm connecting this back to the chest line. This is now the new armhole line for the side bustier. Next thing I'm going to do would be to start taking the body measurements. So I've taken in the bust divide by 4. I imputed on the chest line. I'll do the same thing on the bust line. Divide that measurement by 4 and impute on the bust line. So on the under bust here, I'm going to be taking the entire under bust measurement and minus that measurement by 2 before I'll go ahead to divide it by 4. For instance, if your measurement is 20 on the under bust, minus 2 from 20, that will be 18. Then divide 18 by 4. Okay, after that, replace your dart intake. Do the same thing on the waistline. This is done if you're snatching the waistline. Okay, so if you're not snatching your waistline, please ensure that you don't subtract your measurement on the underbust and on the waistline. So I did the same thing and replaced the dart intake on the waistline as well. So for the hip line, I divided the hip measurement by 4, and I replaced the dart intake. So I did not subtract any measurement from the hip line. Please take note of that. Okay, so for this top here, my client is going to be using a waist girdle to wear this. So please, when you're snatching, ensure you wear your waist girdle, okay? Or if you don't want to do that, then don't snatch your blouse. If not, it won't fit. You have to wear your waist girdle. So after doing this, I'm going to be connecting each of those lines which I just did. Now I am going to come back here on the blouse length, okay, which is also the hip line. I am going to be coming up here by 0.02, sorry, 1.025. So I'm going to use my slight curve to blend this part here. So I'm doing this in order to avoid keeping around that part. If not, you have your blouse speaking out if you don't do this. Okay, I am through with this. As you can see, I am just showing you guys where you're going to be cutting out. I'm not going to cut this pattern yet. I'll leave it at like this, and I'm going to use my tracing wheel to trace each of these lines. This is what a tracing wheel looks like. Trace each of these lines to another pattern paper. I just did that, and this is what it looks like here. So I've traced each of these lines on the pattern paper, the other side of the pattern paper. So this pattern paper was on fold, and when you open it up without tracing it, you would not really have the second line on the other side. So you have to trace it before you open it up and use your pencil to mark the line. So I just cut out this part here. Just watch as I'm doing and do the same thing, please. So I cut out that area on the down part. I'm going to use a masking tape to tape these lines down, ensuring that the lines on the underbust, the waistline, and the blouse line meets. It is very important. The lines have to meet. So I have taped this down. As you can see, the lines are actually touching each other. The lines on the underbust, the waistline, and the blouse line. And I went ahead to join another pattern paper, like about 5 inches. So I'm going to indicate the center line. So guys, I had to slow down this part so you guys can follow whatever I am doing here. So add a pattern paper and extend that measurement. Okay, extend the measurement on the down part here, because we are actually going to be extending some parts on the down part here. Okay, so after making a line there, I'm going to also draw a line on the dart areas. Okay, so draw a line on the both dart areas. Are you following what I'm doing? So from this point here where I have the blouse length, I'm going to be going up by 4 inches. Okay, so go up by 4 inches. Then next thing I'm going to do is that from this point here I'm touching, where I have the blouse length, also go inwards by 1 inch. Okay, so go inward by 1 inch like this. And after taking this measurement on this other center area, okay, that's why you should indicate your center line. I'm going to be coming down here by 3 inches. Okay, so from this blouse length on the center line, come down here by 3 inches. After making this point here, you can see what I did here. I am going to also take my straight through. From this point I came down by 3 inches. I'm going to be connecting it back to this other line here. As you can see, the line I went up by 4 inches. So I just did that, and I'm going to also connect from this other point here to the part I went in by 1 inch. So after I did that, I can see I extended that line by half of an inch. Please ensure you do the same thing. And I'm going to connect this back to the blouse lines. Okay. So I'm going to connect this back to the blouse lines using my slight curve. Now, see, this is what it looks like. The shape is gradually coming out. So for this part here, on this other side here, I am going to also make a connection back to this part. But on this other part of the blouse length, I'm going to be extending this measurement by half of an inch. So if you notice that on the style, they have one part going a bit longer on the side than the other part. So that is the reason why I came down by half of an inch. I am going to be taking this curve, this slight curve here, okay? Going to be connecting it. Please don't use a straight rule on this part. So use a slight curve to connect this back to the waistline. So yeah, this is what I have here, and the shape is out, and this is looking very beautiful. So next thing is that on this other dart leg, I am going to be also extending the dart line to meet to the to the new extension I have on the length. Okay, so I'm going to extend this dart line because actually I'm going to be cutting this part. I'm going to be cutting it through. So yeah, I'm going to start cutting this out now. Please watch carefully how I am going to be cutting this. So I am going to start from here, cut the side. Okay, please remove the masking tape on the bust area. I'm going to be cutting this side, cut this down part here. All right, please make sure you don't you cut properly. Watch the way I'm cutting. Okay, I'm going to cut this down part, cut this area, also cut this parts, cut this other side, and cut this side here. Now I'm going to cut through that area as you can see me do. Alright, so next thing I'll cut this other side as well. Then I'm going to be cutting other parts I did not cut out before taping this down. So I have my pattern paper all ready. I'm going to be cutting each of these into the fabric. All right, I'm going to transfer them to my fabric. Please make sure that while transferring these to your fabric, you place your patterns well and transfer after cutting one part. You have to like transfer on the lining, and you know that one part is not the same as the other part. Moving on, I'm going to draft the back part here, and I've indicated the zipper line. This is the shoulder line, the chest line, the waistline, and the blouse length, also known as the hip line. So I'm going to start taking the necessary horizontal measurements. Coming back to the shoulder line, I'm going to be imputing the shoulder measurement, divide that measurement by 2, and I'm going to be making a mark there. So from that point, I came down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope. Then back to this point, please notice that all the measurement I'm taking horizontally is from this zipper line. So I marked 3 inches. I'm going to be connecting my shoulder slope. So next thing to do would be to come to the chest line and repeat the same measurement, divide my shoulder by 2, and I'm going to be making a mark there. So next thing is that I'm going to connect these 2 points into a straight line. Now I am going to come back here on this line here. I'm going to be taking the midpoint of this line from the shoulder slope to the chest line, and I did that. I'm going to take the bust measurement, divide by 4, and I'm going to be imputing on this chest line. So I'm going to take my curve now to connect these points together. Once I was through with that, I'll come back here to the waistline to take out the zipper bulge. Okay, I'm going to take out 0.5 inch on the waistline for the zipper bulge. So place your tape like this on the zipper line here and come in by 0.5. You can also do 0.75. Then I'm going to take my rule here to connect this back to this line, to the zipper line going towards the blouse lines, as you can see. So I'm connecting it back to the zipper line. Then I'm going to do the same thing up here, connect it back to the chest line, okay, to the zipper line on the chest line. So having done this, I've removed any zipper bulge that may appear after sewing my zipper. So I'm going to be marking the actual zipper allowance. Okay, so from this line here, I also came in by 0.5 inch and I drew a line the same way I did for when I was drawing the first one. So I did the same thing here. Now I am going to be labeling the zipper allowance here. Label this as the zipper allowance. You know, I'm having too many lines here, so you guys don't be confused. So that is the part I'm working out. Okay, I'm working with now. So from this point here, I'm going to be taking the waist measurement. Divide that measurement by, subtract 2 inches from your waist measurement and divide whatever you have by 4. Then go ahead and add your 1 inch for that. Okay, for that intake. So on the blouse length, I'm going to divide the hip by 4 and make a point there. I'm going to be connecting these 3 points I just marked. Moving on, the next thing I'm going to do now would be to take in the darts. So from this waistline here, I'm going to be taking in the darts. I'm going to be doing the same thing on the chest line here. So to determine a straight line, you're going to come here and measure this part. Measure what you have here and also repeat the same thing on the chest line. Then do the same thing on the waistline. This will help you get a straight line. So I'm going to connect this into a straight line. Okay, I just connected these 3 points here into a straight line. On the chest line, I'm going to be coming down by 1 inch. So after that, I'm going to come here on the waistline, taking the dart of 1 inch on both sides, that is half inch on both sides. Okay, so I'm just making a connection here to form the darts. So next thing would be to come here to the length and go up by 2 inches and also connect these darts to this point. I came up by 2 inches. I hope you understand. So having done this, I'll come back here on the blouse length and go up by 1.025 and use my curve rule to connect this back to the blouse length. Okay, connecting this back to the blouse length, as you can see. So I'm going to be making an extension here by half inch. Remember, I extended one part by half inch, so you do the same thing for this part. Now after cutting on your fabric, you're going to be taking out half inch on one part. You know, one is going to have an extension, the other part will not have an extension. So yeah, on the chest line here, sorry, on the shoulder line here, I take the actual neck measurement, which is 4.5, and I came down by 3 inches for the neck depth. So I'm going to using this curve rule here to create my neckline. So I'm going to extend this back here to the zipper line using a straight rule. Now I'm going to extend this like this. Okay, so yeah, basically I am done cutting this part out, this drafting the back part. So I just shaded the part I'm going to be cutting out, although I won't cut, I intended to cut the zipper part out, but sorry, that area out, so I'm not going to be cutting that area again. So I'll just place it like this and transfer the dart to the fabric. Okay, So yeah, this is what this looks like. So I just transferred this on the fabric. As you can see, I've transferred this center part and I cut both the lining and the main fabric. I added stay to this interfacing. Okay, you want to add an interfacing. I added to both the lining and the main fabric. So I added half inch all around this pattern, and I did the same thing on the side. Okay, so for the side, I added 1 inch on this part here and half inch on this bustier area. The down part I added half inch. So yeah, so for the lining piece I added, like, I placed about three cut out a stay that I cut out, and I placed on from the chest line to the under bust. Okay, as you can see, just on the lining piece, don't do on the main fabric. Okay, so yeah, as you can see, the main fabric I did not do anything of that, so I only added one interfacing to it. So do the same thing for this other one here, which is a side. So I also placed about four airstay on this, and I ironed them up from this from the start point here to the under busts. Okay, I also did the same thing for this side. Alright, so please, as you're cutting your fabric, when you cut out the side, cut out the lining for that particular side. Don't fold it together and cut, like, don't cut both sides together. You know, one is different from the other. So for the back part, I also did the same thing. So I'm going to be transferring the darts. That will be in my next tutorial. Thank you so much, and see you guys in my next one.